New reporting from the Washington Post tonight reveals President Trump is planning to use the apparent conclusion of Robert Mueller's report to attack his foes, real and perceived. One of our next guests, Ashley Parker, reports, quote, all signs indicate a Trump operation seeking vengeance and accountability from critics, it says, maligned the president over the investigation into whether his campaign or associates conspired with Russia to interfere in the 2016 presidential election. An advisor who talked to the president said Trump has an appetite to see his critics investigated. Well, with us for more tonight, two top reporters from the Washington Post, the aforementioned Ashley Parker, Pulitzer Prize-winning White House reporter, and Philip Rucker, Pulitzer Prize-winning White House bureau chief. Good evening and welcome to you both. Ashley, indeed, I watched between 2 and 3 hours of Fox News in prime time tonight. So much of it centered right at the news media, a demand for apologies, a kind of relitigating of all the points that have been made over 2 years. Talk a bit more about the president potentially using this as a political weapon, recognizing, again, we're all reacting to a 4-page letter thus far.
Well, it's a political weapon in the eyes of the president and his allies in a couple of ways. Number one is they plan to use it heading into 2020, and they're going to say that for 2 years now, the president has been saying no collusion, this is a witch hunt. And according to this summary of Mueller's report, that's what they found, that there was no collusion. So for any future investigation, for any ongoing investigation, and there are some, and Congress is about to launch a number of investigations, and for even any future bad behavior by the president potentially, they're just going to point to Mueller's findings, or what they now believe his findings to be, and say, we told you this was a witch hunt, and now we're telling you this new thing is a witch hunt, and now you have reason to believe us.
And Phil Rucker, to your reporting on the extent to which the president is newly emboldened.
Yeah, Brian, this is a huge political victory for the president right now, and he feels emboldened and empowered. And we're going to see him try to get on the offensive here. He's planning to go tomorrow up to Capitol Hill to take a victory lap with a lunch with the Senate Republicans there. And then Thursday, he'll be heading out to Michigan for a campaign rally where we can expect he'll be talking a lot about this. And he's not a president who's going to, just be pleased with how this turned out and focus on governing and bipartisanship. Rather, he's seeking revenge. He's seeking retaliation. He's naming his enemies. We saw him in the Oval Office today saying that there are people who did evil things to him and to the country, and that their acts were, in fact, in his view, treasonous. So he's not going to let this go, and is going to be digging in for some time, trying to seek out recourse.
Ashley, in the interim, if, in fact, the newspaper up here in New York was right in their headline today that a cloud has been lifted from the Trump presidency, will the Trump presidency now see an opening to push an agenda? Your reporting would certainly indicate, no, for now, thank you very much. They're very much focused on the people who've done them wrong.
That's right. It's funny. There was some talk among White House officials before we got the summary on Sunday saying, look, if this report is as we believe it to be, good for the president, we want to move on. We want to turn the page. We want to focus on the agenda. But the truth is, as much as even in conversations today, they mentioned the president's trade policy and other agenda items, what they want to do is hold people accountable. And as Phil said, seek vengeance. They are already going through, they're blaming the media broadly, and they're going through and they are finding specific statements from Democratic lawmakers so far of them accusing the president of collusion, of going out and what it now looks like getting ahead of their skis. And they are putting those in memos. They are calling, as you saw, Kellyanne Conway, one of the president's senior advisors, calling on Adam Schiff to resign. And they're going to use this to hold all of these people accountable, and they are not going to let them forget it. We didn't see the president turning to a new infrastructure plan, for instance. What we saw was calls for his enemies, his rivals, his critics to pay a price.
And Phil, you mentioned Michigan. The president is going to Jerry Ford's old congressional district, a deep red spot on the map. Do you expect him to kind of relitigate the last 2 years and report, obviously, the highlights as he sees them of the 4-page letter.
I mean, Brian, there's nothing President Trump loves more than relitigating the past, especially when he thinks he got the upper hand. So, yes, I anticipate he'll talk about some of this at that rally on Thursday. And one thing that's important to keep in mind, I think, is he's not out of the woods yet. Eventually, we don't know when it will be, but eventually we expect that the public will be able to see a good deal of this Mueller report. And it could, in fact, contain very damaging information about President Trump, even though he was not found to have done any criminal wrongdoing. And part of what President Trump is doing right now is taking the summary conclusions in that Bill Barr letter as a headline for him to try to just say over and over and over again, exoneration, no collusion, no obstruction, and blanket over any details, inoculate himself from what could eventually come out in the Mueller report, and also what could be coming out of the Southern District of New York in that investigation, as well as the investigations on Capitol Hill.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.